so much. I'm really happy to be here. You can turn one more slide. Thank you so much. So it's just so great to have tech support today. So thank you all for coming. Today we're going to be talking about something that is pretty important. In this world of aging, we're all getting older, and there are a lot of myths out there that are really not useful. So we're going to be picking them apart and having a good time doing it. Next. So I wanted to tell you just a little bit more about me. I know I love this when I go on to a webinar or a master class or a workshop. I want to know a little bit about the person speaking because this is your valuable time. So I'll just tell you that I have been married for 31 years. I'm the mom of, extremely handsome men, three young men. They're in their late 20s, early 30s. I absolutely love pets in my life. I can't imagine my life without them. I also love whales. I've even kissed one. That picture on the left that you see at the bottom, that is the whale that got a kiss from me. It's a gray whale, and it was in Baja, California, and Mexico. And it was one of the most fantastic moments of my life, I have to say. I also play saxophone. I've been playing since I was 10. I love nature photography, gardening, bird watching, and Mel Torme. I'm a big band gal. My background is I have a master's in applied social psychology. I've been fascinated by behavior change for a very long time. I worked for 27 years in health publishing and health education. This is my second career. I've been at it for 11 years as a master life coach and midlife mentor, focusing on life leadership. I've got group and private coaching programs. I also am a certified Zen Tangle teacher, which is a very specific kind of mindful doodling. And I have the Midlife Doodle Think Club. And also, I am the host of two podcasts for midlife women. Next. Here are the shows. They're available on iTunes, Spotify, and all the podcast places. The first one is Women in the Middle, Loving Life After 50. This one has been around since mid 2017. Episode 458 is coming out tomorrow. And it's 50% me talking about life coach topics relevant to midlife women, about confidence, self-awareness, aging, myths, all the things, relationships, midlife transitions, all that kind of stuff. And 50% of the episodes are interviews with people who have with women over 50 who have made significant life changes. They went from being stuck and unhappy to unstuck and fulfilled. And then Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs. This one is a newer podcast. There are 138 episodes, and it is about the reality of running a business after 50. And we heard a little bit about this earlier when one of the gals on the call mentioned how stuff comes up in your life and can really affect your business. And that is the whole purpose of this particular show. It's for entrepreneurs over 50, women who are dealing with midlife stuff. And I ask them very specific questions. And then you'll see over the course of 138 episodes, there's a lot of similarities with the themes that come up. Everything from energy, menopause, grandparent guilt, gearing up when your friends, family, spouses are gearing down, just all kinds of things, adult children, lots of things get in the way. And it's not that it's like a game changer. It could be, but it's really just a challenge that we need to work around. And I like to say, create a whole new midlife operating system, something that works for us today, and that we're different than we were in our 30s, our 40s, our 20s. Next. So there's lots of podcast goodness out there for you. So today we're going to dive into the truths about aging and debunk midlife myths that can hold women back. You're going to learn the impact of pervasive myths on women's self-perception, life choices, and overall well-being. Very surprising stuff, I have to say. We're going to focus on the real-life consequences of believing in these myths and how they may be holding you back from your potential, and also some tools and insights needed to live life to the fullest during this exciting chapter. I forgot to mention, I'm 62. I'll be 63 this year. I make a point of mentioning this in my work because I think it's so easy to say, oh, I don't want to tell you my age, but to feel weird about aging. And I just want to just talk about it. So it's all good. Next, please. Quick copyright notice. I hate to say this, but it's a wild west out there and my stuff has been stolen. So the contents and materials from this workshop are intended for your personal use only. So this is just the copyright notice. Next. So what's a myth? It's simply a widely held belief or idea. It's often a story or a belief that is believed to be true, but it's not necessarily true and often is not true at all. Next. So you might be wondering, well, why are there so many midlife myths anyway? Well, interestingly, I don't know if you're aware of this, but most research over the past few decades has not focused on the midlife years. There was a lot of stuff going on about early childhood and the child years, the child years. That's again, I just lost the word of what that, the youth. Youth is the word. And there was a lot of research on seniors, but there was a big gap in the middle. And instead, research has focused primarily on old age, like I said, adolescence and childhood. There are those words I was looking for. This has led to a lot of stereotypes and myths about this age and stage in life. And one of my favorite things is when I lose a word on video. You just have to laugh with ourselves, right? It's highly likely that there are some wonky age-related thoughts affecting your life right now. And the effect could be negative. It could be creating fear. Your results could feel out of control, the results you're creating for yourself, and you could also feel confused. Next. So, why should you be a midlife mythbuster? Well, maybe you want to be happier. Maybe you want to live your best life. Maybe you want to stop feeling like you're wasting valuable time. You want to do midlife on purpose and not have regrets about what you didn't say, what you didn't try, what you didn't do. And you want to be intentional with your thinking rather than being on autopilot, like default living, right? So, midlife myths, let's talk about it. I'm going to be presenting 3 aging related myths that I believe you need to put aside now for your own well being. These are myths that are getting in your way without your permission. They are myths that have the potential to make your midlife less enjoyable and less exciting. And who needs that? So, myth number 1, the best is not yet to come. Now, a myth is a widely held belief. So the concept for this idea, this belief, is that the best parts of your life are over. The best part of your life happened already. The best is not in the future. Next. So the best is not yet to come. You might relate to this, or you might be the type that has a whole Pinterest board on the best is yet to come. And maybe you say the best is yet to come all the time and think you believe it. But what I found is a lot of us don't. Deep down, there's some thoughts going on that they could be problematic because there is a negative impact of this belief. So ask yourself, what do you think? If you don't think the best is yet to come, do you think the worst is yet to come? That it's a downhill slide to the finish line, that the best happened already, so don't bother dreaming about what's actually possible. Like when you really allow yourself some time to think about it, you may find some surprising thoughts or doubt. So compare these feelings between thinking these 2 thoughts. The best is yet to come and the best is not yet to come. So when you think the best is yet to come, you might have feelings like these: hope, positivity, curiosity, motivation, just being positive in general, energized, encouraged, those kinds of feelings, versus when you think the best is not yet to come. You might have feelings like these. You might be sad or hesitant, maybe nervous or uncomfortable, stressed, troubled, resigned, that this is just the way things are from now on. So you can start to see the difference. So it's important to understand what you think and how it makes you feel. When you don't have this awareness, you can't be as intentional as you probably want to be. So I encourage you to look for those thoughts. Now, here's a myth-busting tip. Notice what you're thinking and continue to ask yourself why you're choosing to look at the world like this. Think about this. Are the emotions associated with this belief, the best is not yet to come, are they useful to you? So it really is like putting a big giant flashlight on your brain. But when you get quiet and really question yourself or notice what kinds of things you say just in passing as if they're facts, you will start to notice some thoughts that may be there without your permission. Next. Myth number 2, aging is bad. This is a simple and common belief. The concept is youth is good, aging not so good. Being young is desirable, growing old is not. You're better when you're younger, you're worse when you're older. Now, this one is sneaky and subtle. Next. So, my experience was this. I was surprised when I noticed that I took great pride when somebody would tell me that I didn't look my age. So ask yourself, has anybody said to you, "Oh my gosh, you don't look 50. Oh no, wow, you really don't look 60. What are you doing?" Notice that. So when people were saying that to me, I was like, isn't that great? I don't look my age. I felt like a peacock in full plumage, you know? And there is a negative impact on the belief. What I really realized from this was that if you feel sad, resigned, and less than those negative feelings, or if you feel less confident, notice how you show up in your life with this thought in charge. If you really think that it's better to not look your age, what do you really believe? There's something wrong with looking your age. There's something wrong with aging. It's all part of this aging is bad. Like somebody could say to you, "Wow, you look great," period. Versus, "Wow, you look great for your age." So there's what other people think, and there's how you respond to this kind of thing and what you think yourself. So notice negative feelings, less confidence, and how you show up in your life with this thought in charge at work, in groups, and limiting beliefs. Notice stereotypes that you have about aging and how they relate to your thinking about what is actually possible for you. Next. So, notice how you think about aging being bad or at least being a big bummer. So, I want to tell you a brief story. This is really my why. And the picture on the left, those are my parents, and that is me. And my situation as a child was a little unusual. I have now like outlived both of my parents by decades and decades. My father passed 50 years ago last week. And my mother passed a long time ago too. So I was 5 when my mother passed. She was 31. And I was 12 when my father passed at 41, 40, 30. Sorry, my mother was 32. My father was 41. And they didn't have the privilege of aging. And what that meant for me as a kid was watching 4 grandparents as a child. I was a child watching 4 grandparents grieve their adult children who died too soon, who didn't have the gift of aging. So really think about this. When you think that aging is bad, what are you really getting at? Because there's a lot of people who don't have the privilege of aging. And I don't need to go into that in more detail. We all know people, many people who have not had the privilege to age. So when we think that aging is a gift, and we also have these thoughts and feelings that these thoughts that aging is bad, there's some confusion going on there. Like, what is it that we really think? So I would encourage you to challenge yourself. Why do you think this? What would it be like to think that aging was a privilege denied to many? And could you believe that aging is a gift? And if you think you believe that aging is a gift, what else are you believing? And is there a conflict there? So could you clean that up? Could you be curious about what it is you actually think? Because my childhood experience really sensitized me to this. And as a woman coach, like I'm working with tons of midlife women, and I hear their stories and I hear their thoughts and concerns about aging. And there's just so much negativity associated with it. So if you're not aging, you're dead. That's the bottom line. If you're not aging, we've been aging since we were born. So it really is something in our culture that has a lot of negativity associated with it. Okay, next. Myth number 3, and there are many more than 3. There's way more than 3 myths, but we're just going to talk about 3 today. Midlife is crisis worthy. So when we grew up, we saw a lot of cartoons and sitcoms focusing on red sports cars, convertibles, men being with younger women, people having a midlife crisis. So many of us have grown up believing that when you hit midlife, you have a crisis. But a lot of these stereotypes are associated with men. What about women? What's going on when women hit midlife? So, a midlife crisis is defined as an emotional crisis of identity and self-confidence that can occur in early middle age. And of course, there's a lot of, with women, especially really connecting with identity. Who are we now when our kids are leaving the home? Who are we now when we're thinking about retirement? Who are we now when our body looks different than it used to? The concept is the myth is that you basically will freak out when you hit midlife. You'll just freak out. And that bad things happen to you in midlife. Now, I'm not saying that bad things and challenging things don't happen in midlife. They happen at all stages of our life. But is that the only thing you're thinking? Is it the thought that's creating these feelings that's overriding a lot of the way you're showing up these days? Next, please. So there are wake-up calls in midlife and at every age, but right now there are wake-up calls. As I just mentioned, there's a lot of empty nest angst going on. There's illness, a lot of doctor appointments, taking care of parents, illnesses of and death of people that you know. And you're just more aware of all that at this age. I noticed a big difference when I turned 60, that kind of awareness and a bit of a sizzle with doctor appointments and more fear. So there are more negative feelings going on: fear, worry, anxiety. And you can tend not to dream. You decided you won't be functioning at a high level, so you don't dream at a high level. There can also be lack of excitement about your future, focusing on what you can't do instead of what you can do. So these are all things that are part of having this belief that you may not even realize you have. Next. So a tip is to notice how you think about the midlife transition as being smooth or bumpy. So you don't even need to get granular. You can just think, oh, is this going to be smooth or is this going to be like a big upheaval with scary stuff at every turn? Try on purpose, think on purpose and notice what you want to believe intentionally rather than letting an outdated myth call the shots. And I have to tell you, I've had some very surprising and amazing things happen to me in my 50s, in my mid to late 50s. So it doesn't all have to be a crisis. It doesn't all have to be a downhill slide to the finish line. But we can't control some of the things in our life, but we can have more control and be more intentional about the way we want to think on purpose. Next. So midlife myths are thoughts and beliefs that could be getting in the way. Autopilot thinking is when you think and believe things automatically. So it's when you don't realize that you have a choice. Your thoughts may not feel optional. You've been thinking this way for decades. So the thing is that you create a lot of what you believe. And this is why you should be calling the shots on purpose. Next. So are you ready to be a midlife mythbuster? Midlife myths have the potential to make your midlife less enjoyable and less exciting, less grand, less amazing, less zippity-doo-dah. And who needs that? Now you have awareness. The more awareness that you have, the more you can just keep sailing forward. So here are a couple of suggestions to think about. The first one is to be really curious about what you're thinking and feeling. Ask yourself questions about how you're showing up when it comes to your mindset around aging. Notice what you actually believe versus what you think automatically. What is your default thinking versus what you actually believe? And I'm pretty sure that you will find a gap between lots of thoughts. So notice what's really going on up there in your mind, what you're actually thinking and feeling. And this is the important part. If you like your reasons. So if you're still believing something that your grandma told you when you were 12, do you want to be believing that? Maybe, or maybe not. Because is it serving you now? Maybe it served you before. Maybe it never served you. But we can start believing stuff that we've heard from our parents, from a best friend, from TV, from radio, from all kinds of people, from a partner. Do we like our reasons for thinking and therefore feeling whatever the result is of that idea? So if you don't like what you notice, you can make changes. Subtle shifts can make a huge difference in your life. Next. So play with thoughts like these. Here are some suggestions about creating new thoughts that are more beneficial to you. Just notice how you feel And we want to feel feelings that are more useful for us because the way we feel directly leads or fuels what we do or what we don't do. So how we show up is based on how we feel. So, for example, the best might just be yet to come. If you can't go to, yep, it's going to be great. It's okay. But can you take a baby step in that direction? The best might just be yet to come. And notice that tiny little shift in language can definitely make you feel a little bit more this way than that way, like a little bit more positive than negative. Maybe get you into a space that's a little bit more useful than not useful. That's what we're looking for. Even if you can get to neutral from a negative thought, that's better in terms of many things that you're going to need to do. Here's another suggestion for the type of thought that might help. I'm open to the idea that I'm not just older, I'm older, wiser, and more fabulous. Now, that might be a stretch, but could you be open to the idea that there are some positives like wisdom that go with aging? There's even research to back this up. Here's another one. I'm learning that there are opportunities that I never even noticed before. So again, when you're in a negative mindset that things just aren't fair or things are going to be worse, things are going to be harder, whatever it is, are you even able to see what possibility is out there, what opportunities are out there for you? So a thought like I'm learning doesn't mean it's a slam dunk, you're ready to go, but it could just mean, I'm learning there might be some opportunities out there for me that I wasn't aware of before. That kind of thing, just a small shift, because it's not all about Suzy Sunshine and making everything just perfect. That's not what this is about. It's about managing your mind in a way that you create a feeling state for you, that's more helpful, more useful for you at this age and stage in your life. Here's another idea. Whoops, go back just one more. There we go. I want midlife to be a time for me to decide what I really want and do in midlife. Make midlife on purpose. So you don't just want to have an autopilot lifestyle just because you always did stuff that way. You could think and create a life for yourself that is based on intentional decisions about what you really want to do, what your priorities are, what you do on purpose. Because when most people look at how they spend their time, there's a big gap between how they show up in the world and what they do compared to some of the priorities they have that they never get to. And you probably can think about that in your own life. So, midlife may surprise you. You could think midlife may surprise me in wonderful ways. And as I mentioned briefly, that's happened to me in huge ways. And I'll just briefly share one of them. When I was 54, I was just walking the dog with my husband, and I got an email. And when I looked at the email, my eyes bugged out and I started to shake. I was in such shock. The curator, the assistant curator, or maybe one of the assistant curators at the Museum of Modern Art in Manhattan, MoMA, was reaching out to me to purchase something that I made and had on my Etsy store. Yeah, I can't, what the heck? So I made beaded wire kippas, very decorative, and I'd been doing it for 12 years and I loved it. And it's nothing I would quit my job over or anything, but I really enjoyed it. And they were putting together a collection of 10. And it was going to be part of a bigger thing at MoMA called Items is Fashion Modern, a big exhibit where they were identifying different categories of fashion. They called it a fashion accessory to feature in this 4-month exhibit. And they purchased one of mine to be included in that part of the exhibit. Mine was the only one there for women. And, it was a beaded wire head covering. And if you would have asked me ever in my lifetime if something that I made with my own little hands was going to show up in MoMA in Manhattan, there's like no way I would have ever even imagined it. Like it's so beyond anything I could imagine. Yet it happened. Yet it happened. So I'm just saying that midlife may surprise you in wonderful ways. And for me, I've had several of those opportunities, and it really has helped me shift some of the negative thoughts that even I had about aging. Next. So there's a lot going on up there in your mind. You can learn to get out of your own way and regret-proof your life by being curious about some of these common midlife myths and thinking on purpose. Next. That's what I have for you today. So if you're ready for support to start leading your next chapter more intentionally, that's the kind of thing I help women with, and I would love to help you get clear. So I have something called a next chapter clarity session, which is a powerful place to start. It's like a 50-minute conversation, private, just the two of us on Zoom, where we slow everything down and we take a closer look at what's going on in your life and what you may be ready for next. And you can book this at www.talktosuzy.com. Next. And then I have one free thing for you right now. It's called the Next Chapter Quiz. You can find out what your future self is craving and what you might be and what might actually be holding you back. And you can head over to midlifequiz.com and that's there for you now. So ask yourself, what does your future self want? And sometimes we just have no clue. It's so easy to be confused, and this quiz will help you figure it out. Next. And here's the ways to get a hold of me. There's my website, Facebook, it's at the Midlife Coach, Instagram, it's at the Midlife Coach _Suzy, and LinkedIn, it's Suzy Rosenstein. Next. And that's it. So let's be Mythbusters together. I want to thank you so much for your time and for coming today. And I hope that you have just a few more things to think about.